Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And we have a lot to get into on tonight's show as we're going to break down Samuel Basallo's surging performance at AAA Norfolk, as well as some tough news on the injury front affecting AA Chesapeake's rotation and the promotion of Blake Money from High A Aberdeen up to AA. And we will get to that in just a moment. But at the top of the show, we want to acknowledge the developing situation right now concerning the FCL Orioles, who had their game on Monday postponed, and their game on Tuesday has now been postponed on the heels of a jet ski accident that occurred off the coast of Sarasota on Sunday night around 8 p.m. An Orioles spokesperson acknowledged on Monday that some of their players were involved in the accident. Very few details have been reported to this point publicly, though we do know that 2 jet skis collided head-on and 4 people were hurt, 2 of which were taken to the hospital. Several outlets have been reporting about the story, including the Baltimore Banner. Right now, the incident is being investigated by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. As we come on the air here on Monday night, we do not know for sure whether or not Orioles players are hospitalized or were able to leave the scene or the identity of those players. And we will react to that once all of that has been confirmed at a later date. But we just want to acknowledge that we extend our wishes for safety for everybody involved.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, once we hear more details, we'll have a better idea, but obviously not a great situation with back-to-back games being canceled. So thoughts and prayers, as they say.
With that, now we will go into our main show tonight. As we like to do at the top of every episode, we want to welcome some new members to our Patreon community. And for that, I will turn it over to Bob.
Yeah, so thank you to Robert Bingham for signing up for the A-ball. You got to work your way up. Chris Jungle George might be a second-time shout-out, but I just see there's a new patron named Chris who signed up a couple days ago. So thank you, Robert and Chris. Hope you enjoy the content.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a reminder, if you sign to become a member of our Patreon community, you'll have access to bonus weekly shows from Bob, Nick, and myself, as well as monthly updates to our top 50 prospects list and a lot more. So if you've not signed to become a patron, please consider doing so. Now we'll get into the performance of Samuel Basallo at AAA Norfolk. Basallo has put together a very strong June and has brought his season line up to a 264 batting average, 371 on base percentage, with a 588 slugging percentage and 175 plate appearances. In that span, he's belted 14 home runs and posted a 150 WRC+. Since the beginning of June, he's hitting 361 with 5 home runs. And so far, with that home run total, Basallo right now is just 5 home runs off the 19 that he posted in 127 games last season, and only 6 off the 20 that he had across 3 levels in 114 games during the 2023 season. Nick, I'll start with you here. You pointed something out on our X account last week that I found really interesting and kind of surprising, even though I followed Basallo's career to this point. He's had now well over 1,000 plate appearances across his minor league career, and he has yet to face a pitcher that is younger than him. So you put that into context of what a 20-year-old is accomplishing at AAA, and it's been a very, very good season for him so far.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was a total of 0 at bats. I thought at some point he might have had some, but I mean, the kid started as a 16-year-old down in the Dominican Summer League and has steadily moved up the system. I mean, he had 20 games in High A, wasn't there for very long, and those home run totals you just mentioned, that's even more impressive right now too, because he's 6 home runs away from tying his season high, and he's like 300 at bats less than 23 and 24 seasons. Like, just stupid good. I mean, we've watched him for 4 years now. He's had over 1,300 career at bats. Probably watched, I don't know, 60-70% of those at bats minus the DSL and the FCL, and it's just he always shows something that's like, he did what? He continues to amaze us. His worst season statistically was last year in AA when he was a 19-year-old kid with a 125 WRC plus and those 16 home runs. Like, that's insane. And this year, now that he's in AAA, like, how many left on left home runs have we seen from him? 3 actually. I have the number right here. 3 left on left home runs. Like and 3 home runs and just 27 at bats against lefties. To be a 20-year-old backstop with a 150 WRC plus in AAA is pretty phenomenal. And if you look at the list, only 2 catchers in the International League rank above Basallo, and it's a 26-year-old Anthony Siegler and a 29-year-old Mickey Gasper. And like regardless of position, the top 10 in WRC plus in the International League, minimum 150 plate appearances. Basallo is 9th, which is 3 points ahead of Roman Anthony. 1 through 8 are a bunch of 26, 27-year-olds. There's a 30-year-old up here on the list. Like, these are old men. I say that as a 37-year-old, but like this is a kid up there among the best of the best. And in looking, comparing some of his batted ball numbers, he's got a 115.9 max EV. So that would rank 17th in the majors right now, ahead of guys like Pete Alonso, Manny Machado, Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, Luis Robert. Hard hit percentage of 56.2%. That's 7th in the majors, ahead of Aaron Judge and Rafael Devers. San Francisco Giant Rafael Devers. And I go back to Eric Longenhagen's write-up on Basallo this year, and for years he's called Samuel Basallo, Rafael Devers with a catcher's mask. And like,
don't trade him to the Giants.
Seriously. But like, pick a batted ball data point from Basallo in AAA this year. And granted, it is AAA, but pick a data point, compare it to Rafael Devers this year in the major leagues. Like, it's the whole corporate wants you to find the difference. They're the same pitcher. Like, this is who they are. I mean, it's like, he's 20 years old. And it's mind blowing, and it leads to, like, I don't know. I feel like you can pick apart, like we talk about Kobe Mayo, we talk about Jackson Holliday, like you can pick things apart, and we can pick things apart with Basallo as well. But I want to say I feel more confident that Basallo will be able to get to the major leagues and have this impact stellar career in the majors, even more confidently say that than I did with a Holliday or Gunnar or any of these other top prospects that have rolled through.
Completely agree. And again, it's just what we've seen time and time again from him. It's just a constant improvement. Like, even from the beginning of the season to now, he's improved drastically. It feels like at least he's been more comfortable. If you go back and look at when he went on the IL for the hamstring strain, he comes back. If you skip the first couple games where he's getting his feet under him, April 30th to now, he's batting .280 with an OPS of 1024, 166 WRC plus, a 356 ISO. That's six doubles, 12 home runs in 118 at bats. And then if you just look at June, from June 1st to now, he's batting .361 with a 1217 OPS, a 217 WRC plus, a 417 ISO. That's 5 home runs and 36 at bats. He's just, the damage he does when he makes contact is astronomical. Like, it's ridiculous. So, you know, Nick shared the little AAA Statcast card, and there's some blue on there where, you know, he chases a bit, but like John Muley, when he comes on, he has said that he is almost too good at making contact, but there's actually a little more swing and miss in his game. I think it's probably more velocity, upper velocity, that he probably hasn't seen much of as a 20-year-old who raced through the system. But clearly he's a guy that's adjusting. He's going to continue to adjust. And when he makes contact, it's just pure mayhem. It's just damage. The baseballs are dented. They are torn. He's a monster. He turns 21 in 2 months. It'll be interesting to see if he makes his major league debut at 20 or 21, but it's going to happen this season. That's for sure.
Yeah, some of the things that you could pick apart with Basallo, Bob, you just touched on the fact that there are some things on his StatCast or in his StatCast data that are a little bit surprising. He does chase a lot. Strikeout rate so far sitting a little bit north of 25%, though it's worth noting that that's a considerable improvement over the 31% strikeout rate that he had in 21 games at AAA at the end of last season. The other thing is that Basallo does not pull the ball in the air for power necessarily. So this is someone who uses all fields. Now, we know that for right-handed hitters, this has been a subject of debate for several years with the Orioles, especially as the wall moved back. But what you see from Basallo is true all fields power. So when he makes contact, he can put the ball out just about anywhere. But is there anything that when you look at that data that concerns you that maybe Basallo could be challenged a little bit more than what we've seen so far?
Long term, no. I really don't see anything that concerns me whatsoever. Long term, maybe short term. Say he was brought up to make his major league debut tomorrow night. I think, again, just he's probably going to chase a little bit. He'll probably have a strikeout rate around 30%. But again, this is as a 20-year-old getting his first taste at the major leagues. But I still think he would probably have more success than Holiday did last year, just because, I mean, Holiday's a fantastic prospect player. We're seeing what he can do now that he's more comfortable and acclimated at the majors. But Basallo, even if he swings and misses half the time when he makes contact, it's gonna be for extra bases most likely, or at least for a very loud single. So yeah, he's walking 14% about. So I just think it's there's really, like I've said many times, I think he's a better prospect than Gunnar, than Adley, than Holiday at the times that they were making their major league debuts. Clearly the lists disagree. I think he's still like 19th on Baseball America or something, which is insane. But yeah, I just think you see him doing splits over at first base, making awesome stretches and picks, and he's an athlete. He's getting better. Even behind the plate. He hasn't caught that much this year, but I can already tell that he's extremely comfortable back there. So the way he has that growth mindset with just the raw ability, I have literally no concerns long term.
Yeah, he just gets dinged on those lists, I think, because he's a catcher. Like that, I think that's what it is. And saying this as, we put together a prospect list, we update it every month. We use this as a perk to come sign up for Patreon. We that's gets the clicks, it gets the listens, it gets the views. People have prospect lists. I freaking hate them. I don't care what a national prospect list says. I truly don't. I don't care how many top 100 prospects the Orioles have. I truly don't. We're watching these guys and seeing their development. And Basallo, I don't care where he ranks on a national list. I feel pretty confident. Again, he's going to come up and perform well. And like even going back to the Fangraphs write-up, and I know Baseball America even did a deeper dive like they did with Kobe Mayo and Jackson Holiday. I didn't look through that or pull that up actually in preparation for this. So maybe there's more detail in there. But if you go back to that Fangraphs write-up, Eric even notes like, hey, even if he settles in at like what 70, 75% contact rate, because there's going to be swing and miss. He notes Salvador Perez, Teoscar Hernandez, Bryce Harper are all within the same bucket of chase and contact and swing and miss that Basallo's in. Like those are pretty okay baseball players in the major leagues, I think. So, and if Basallo is going to be able to do that from behind the plate, I think you touched on this, Bob, but I think what Basallo doesn't get enough credit for, it's what John Muley and both Steve Molesky harped on when they come on here and they talk about Basallo. It is who he is as the person and what's between the ears with this kid. It's like that term cerebral being used to describe how he goes about his development at all stages. Like he truly does have this extreme drive to be an elite major leaguer, to be that role model for all the kids back home in the Dominican Republic. And he wants to get better day in and day out behind the plate, at first base, in the batter's box, like all of it. And things like when he gets hurt and he's not on the field, how he's a completely different person just because he's depressed, like, because he loves baseball and that's all he wants to do is be the absolute best. And he's not going to stop until he gets there. Like, I don't know. I just don't think that gets enough credit. I don't think his overall athleticism gets enough credit like that. Doing that split on Sunday at first base, that he was putting the final nail in Ryan Mountcastle's coffin with that split. No need for you anymore, my guy. Like if Basallo, the defense behind the plate, I think Steve Molesky said it best last time he was on talking about Basallo's defense behind the plate. It doesn't get enough credit. Is it great? No, but it's more than adequate enough to be Adley's tag team partner behind the plate. And when you move him over to first base, we've talked about this for years, watching him at first base. He's very, very good defender at first base. And so you've got at worst an above average defender at first base when he's not behind the plate. It's all just, yeah. The scariest part of all, like he's far from a finished product. He's still evolving.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I think is worth pointing out here is that because of the elbow issue that he had early on this year, he still has 13 games behind the plate all season for Norfolk. So clearly he's going to need to build up innings before he gets to the major leagues. But I think that when he does get there, it's going to present an interesting balancing act for the Orioles because I don't see Adley Rutzman going anywhere anytime soon. And in fact, maybe there is still an opportunity for the Orioles to extend him beyond the 2 seasons of team control they have after this season. So Basallo, I think that the Orioles still want to develop him as a catcher, but you're going to want that bat in the lineup as much as you can get it in there. So his development at first base, I think, is really worth keeping an eye on as the season goes on.
Yeah, I agree. And I think he's better than Ryan O'Hearn at first base already, I would presume. And yeah, I think honestly, if the Orioles want to buy and sell at the same time, I know they're getting whooped a little bit tonight, but they got they're only 10 games under 500 coming into tonight after winning like 14 out of the last 20 games. Great accomplishment, but still 10 games under 500. If the Orioles want to sell but still not give up on the season and trade Ryan O'Hearn, you bring Samuel Basallo up immediately, fill that role, and be a third catcher behind Gary Sanchez and Adley Rutschman for the rest of this season, and work with Robinson Chirinos, behind the scenes. I think that could be something that works. Still hoping that they're like not going to play the Rookie of the Year eligibility thing like they did with Gunnar and some others, and just say, all right, we extended him, now he's up immediately. But that's like a wish, and it's not going to happen. But yeah, I think it's just a matter of time. And like we talked about recently, how many home runs is he going to hit this season? How many in the minors? How many in the majors? I think he's going to hit 30 still, and it's just a matter of how many of them will be in the minor leagues before he's called up.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, based on what the Orioles are doing right now, do we think if they're going to be out of it, do we think they go ahead and just keep him down? It's more likely that they just keep him down in AAA and say, look, you haven't been able to catch a ton because of the injury. We want you to have more time behind the plate because you are going to be, the teammates with Adley behind the plate next year in the big leagues, plus the Rookie of the Year thing. Like, I know we all want him up in the major leagues, but if the Orioles think they got a real shot at that pick, like they're going to do it. Or is it like, if this team was in contention, I always feel like the odds of him being up in the next month or so would be a lot higher. But now that this season is not over, but as we've talked about like every week, it's getting bleaker and bleaker as we get deeper into the summer here. Even with this good stretch, I just feel like it's harder to see them bringing him up earlier this summer, unfortunately. But I don't know.
Yeah, I still kind of see the timeline as late September, maybe even after the AAA season has ended. You have that couple week window there where the majors are still playing. Because the Orioles is a plan for 2026. I think one of the things they need to figure out is, do you have to go get another Gary Sanchez type? Or let's say you get someone in the middle where you get someone who could be AAA depth for you if Basallo makes a major league team, but could be an adequate backup catcher in the meantime if Basallo has to go back to AAA for a little while. So I think you want to try to answer that question, and one of the ways to do that would be to give him some reps in the big leagues behind the plate at the end of the year if you're not in contention. If they are in contention, I still think the timeline might be roughly the same, but I almost wonder if you'd see him behind the plate less because these games would have a little bit more meaning. And say what you will about Gary Sanchez's defense, there's still a lot of major league experience there when Basallo hasn't even been able to catch a full season at AAA this year.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I like the way that you played that out.
So something to really keep an eye on here will be whether or not the Orioles bring Basallo, or when the Orioles bring Basallo up, because with the way that he is hitting right now, it feels like his case is only going to get stronger by the week. And we'll go on now to some tough injury news that came out of Double-A Chesapeake this past week, as Braxton Bragg, Trace Bright, and Levi Wells were all placed on the IL. And this came a week after Juan Nunez was placed on the season ending or the full season IL at Chesapeake. So the Bay Sox have lost some starters recently. In the case of Bright and Bragg, it was with forearm discomfort, while Wells is out with a right shoulder issue. Jacob Calvin-Meyer of the Baltimore Sun did report last week that the Orioles don't expect any of those pitchers, Bragg, Bright, or Wells, to miss extended time, but we still don't know the full extent of the injury. Now, last week, we came on and we knew that Bragg had been scratched from his last start, and there was an injury concern there, but we didn't dive into it a whole lot, not knowing what was coming up. And at first, it seemed like it might not be that serious because at one point, Bragg was penciled in to start on Friday night for the Bay Sox. However, he was scratched from that start and placed on the IL. So, for now, at least, one of the best stories of the minor leagues in the Orioles system so far this year is on pause. We hope for the best for all three, but we don't know exactly what's to come of this. So, Bob, I'll start. What's your reaction?
Yeah, I'm not thrilled about it, but I do think the Orioles wouldn't come out and say that they expect him back, or whatever the exact wording was. They don't expect him to miss much time. They don't say that if it's not true, in my opinion. I mean, Trace Bright, I'm shocked if that's the case because he walked off with shaking his arm out with the trainer, I believe. So that's interesting. But for Bragg and Wells, I tend to believe it because they had no real reason to come out and say that. And they typically wouldn't if it was a little more serious. So obviously it sucks, but I don't know, especially with Levi Wells. He just had that abdominal issue or whatever that was. Maybe this is kind of just for him. It's like a way to, he's a little sore, a little banged up, maybe just manage the innings and then get him completely healthy again. Because we know at the middle of the season, any pitcher is going to be sore enough to go on the IL at some point or another. Just like with Cade Povich in the majors, it's kind of half phantom, half real injury. But especially Bragg, like I'm just hoping that it's what they say it is, and that he comes back and continue to flash the incredible stuff and progression that he's shown this year and get to AAA before the year's out. But of course, you're holding your breath whenever a pitcher hits the IL, even if it is minor, because it's just hopefully not a precursor to something worse. And you just never know with pitchers, especially in the year 2025.
Yeah, I'm going to choose to remain optimistic about the Levi Wells shoulder again, because we know it was a shoulder issue last year that he missed like 5 weeks for. But yeah, you mentioned the oblique thing. So I'm going to choose to say like he's already up to like almost 40 innings. He only pitched 60 last year. He's a high intensity guy. So maybe there's a little overcompensation. I don't know how the body mechanics work with pitching. I'm going to say maybe a little bit of overcompensation, a little weary. Even though like this entire AA pitching staff is on the IL, it'd be not great timing for a quote unquote phantom IL stint, but still like, hey, we're not going to rush this, right? There's no need. You're not getting to the major leagues this year. Let's calm you down a little bit here. We can find someone to log innings in a AA baseball game. Doesn't really mean anything. Bragg, just man, it's even Pham was or the forearm inflammation we saw, and now Bragg, and it's like until they're back on the mound and they've got a couple games under the belt, I'm going to be concerned, to be honest. It's like giving me flashbacks like Kyle Bradish all over again. It's like he's healthy and everybody's getting all excited. And you're like, I didn't even want to watch his rehab outings because I was afraid something's going to pop again right there. But it's going to be the same with like Bragg and Pham when they come back. But I'm going to choose to trust. Yeah, I'm going to play this weird mind game that the Orioles want to play. I'm going to play along and just say like when Pat Riley went down, it was radio silence until. Oh, he had surgery this morning. He's out for a year. It's Tommy John surgery. So I'm going to choose to believe that because they've been so upfront with everything, that they do strongly believe that it's not an extreme situation. And this is just, they just need some time. It's not going to be 7 days. Obviously, the 7-day IL means absolutely nothing in minor league baseball. But within, 2-3 weeks, they should be back on the mound. But yeah, this growing IL. It's not just in the major leagues; it's in the minors as well. And you look at pitchers, like how many guys are getting called up to Double A to throw when Excel Correa getting called Cohen Aiken, like these guys having to make spot starts in Double A because they need arms. Unfortunately, we'll see what kind of impact this has by the end of the year with having to force guys up and down and all around and maybe pitching at higher levels a little too early. But hopefully we can find some peace with a lot of these Double A arms over the next 2-3 weeks.
I did a count before the show, and from what I can tell, or from what I counted, of the 22 pitchers that we had on our preseason top 50, 12 have spent at least some time on the IL this year. There's only one confirmed Tommy John case, and that is Pat Riley, though we know Edgar Portes, who also started this year at Chesapeake, is out for the season. Juan Nunez, it's worth pointing out, was not eligible for our preseason top 50 after being chosen by the Padres in the Rule 5 draft, but let's say he had been in the organization at the time we were putting the list together, he would have almost certainly been on it. So now you'd probably be looking at 13 of 22 on the IL, and Chesapeake getting hit the hardest of any affiliate because not only do they have the pitchers that just went on the IL, but Zach Fruit is out, Alex Pham, as Nick mentioned, is out. So it has been a tough stretch, and I think that credit to guys like Cohen Aiken and Excel Correa that have been able to come in those tough situations and eat innings. But you do wonder how much longer can you make that work?
Yeah, the Juan Nunez thing is this has just been weird from the start. I don't know how you guys feel. It's like he missed what 3/4, 80% of last season with that injury, gets plucked by the Padres. And I don't, of course, we're following along every time he gets on the mound, everything you could find written about Nunez. Nunez was in those like spring training, all the spring training articles. Here's my roster prediction, volume 1, volume 2, volume 18. None of them ever had Juan Nunez in any of the articles that I found leading up to from Padres camp. So it seemed like Juan Nunez never had a real shot of making it with the Padres. And then he comes back to Baltimore and it's like an inning here, an inning there. And then they finally start to unleash him and he goes in the IL. I was like, okay. And I think I clicked on a Baseball America article and it said he'd been transferred to the full season list. I'm like, wait, his player page doesn't say that. I think later that day, then they changed it on his player page. I'm like, all right, well, what's going on then? Is it the injury from last year? Is this a new injury? Like, it's just been a whole weird situation with Nunez, I feel like, since spring training this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's almost like they didn't expect to get him back. I don't know. It was weird how it was handled. And I could kind of see where it was like, okay, you're coming off this shoulder thing. So we're going to start you off with an inning or two and then slowly build you up throughout the season. And the stuff still seemed great. Like he was getting plenty of whiffs and strikeouts, but a lot of walks. And then, yeah, boom, full season IL. Hopefully I don't know what I hope. It's probably not good. It's either Tommy John or something else with the shoulder maybe. But yeah, it was a very, very weird. It was like almost, I expected to be at least the organization to feel more excited about the return of Juan Nunez, and it was kind of just like, oh, Juan Nunez is back and barely pitching, and now he's hurt.
Yeah, I didn't know what to make of it because let's go back to when the Padres took him. Basically, the reaction from AJ Preller was, well, our scouts really like him. But there was no indication at that point if he was healthy enough to even be on the Padres opening day roster. He, pitched in camp, and from a little bit, I could tell he was holding his own. But like Nick said, I don't think it was ever a foregone conclusion in spring training that Nunez was going to make the Padres roster. And then he comes back to the Orioles, and this is what I found the most interesting was that when he came back and was put on Chesapeake's roster to begin the season, he was pretty much used in short relief outings early on. Then they started to gradually build his innings up, and then at the beginning of May, put him in the rotation. He didn't have a start, however, that went longer than 2 2/3 innings. I watched what was his last start at Harrisburg on May 20th. And as I'm watching the game, it's like, all right, the velocity seems like it's okay, given he had the shoulder injury, given that he's building himself back up. And his command was not sharp that night. Or actually, it was decent that night. Didn't walk any batters, but was getting hit around a little bit with some balls that he left in the zone. And then that ended up being his last outing. So we still don't know exactly what is wrong with him, but I'm kind of left to wonder, was he ever fully healthy?
It's Carter Baumler might be the healthiest arm in the system right now, which is like wild to think. Yeah, just a tough year. But I do think, like we're seeing on the major league side, with a lot of these bats coming back, I I think after the All-Star, well, it's not an All-Star break because there's no All-Star games anymore, but after that midseason break, I think we're going to see this down on the farm. I think you're going to see a lot of arms start to return. You're going to see Fruit, hopefully Pham, hopefully some of these other guys who are just some minor bumps and bruises, Wells, Bragg. Hopefully all these guys start coming back after that midseason break, which is in like, I don't know, it's only like a couple weeks away. So yeah, I don't know. Tough year for injuries across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Majors, minors, Orioles, non-Orioles. It's all there's no such thing as a healthy pitcher. It's just I'm not injured currently.
With that, now we will go on to some good news that came out over the weekend as Blake Money was promoted from High A Aberdeen up to Double A after 53 very good innings for the Ironbirds. Money posted a 3.57 ERA to go along with a 3.9 FIP, 3.33 xFIP, and struck out 65 batters in that span while walking just 18. This comes off of a very good full season debut for Money in which he threw 103 innings at Low A Delmarva last year. And we spent a lot of the second half speculating about when Money was going to get to move up from Delmarva to Aberdeen. He was in that camp. Braxton Bragg was in that camp. Riley Cooper, to a certain extent, was another name we would bring up. And it didn't happen. But as we saw with Bragg earlier this season, that was not indicative of how the Orioles plan to move them along going forward, because Bragg got the jump up early in the year. And while Money's promotion does come at a time where Chesapeake desperately needs pitching help, it's also a very deserved promotion. I don't think that Money had a whole lot left to prove in High A. And Bob, I'll start with you here because I think out of the three of us, you've had Money on your personal top 50 probably the longest and ranked the highest. So what should we look for with Blake Money?
I think just more of the same. It's almost like he's just so consistent for the most part, and he's not exactly the flashiest guy. I mean, he's a 6'7". He's a pretty big dude out on the mound, and I think just really the second half of last year in Delmarva, he really started turning it up a notch, and then I feel like he brought that energy into this season. He had a little bit of a pitching slump for a couple weeks there, or at least a couple starts there a couple weeks ago. But then he's been pretty good again. Last time out, I think he had like 8 strikeouts. Yeah, 8 strikeouts to 1 walk over 7 innings. Held the team to 3 hits. That was the Phillies High A team. So I think you're just, he doesn't walk many guys. For as big as he is, you would think he'd have less control command than he does. He had a 5.9% walk rate in 2024 and 8.1% in High A this season. That's still pretty darn good. Anything under 10%, I'm going to take. And highest strikeout percentage of his career, 29.1% as well. So, yeah, I think he's just going to go out there, give you 5 to 6 innings, solid pitching. I don't know if he's like in the same league as the other guys we've talked about, even like the Alex Phams. I'm not sure. He might ultimately have to go back to being a reliever long-term in the majors. We'll have to see. But I think for now, he's just another in a long run of arms in this organization, especially him out of the 2023 draft. Yeah, 12th round pick. That is the draft that just keeps on giving. And yeah, I'm excited for him. And yeah, I think it's interesting, right? You see Cohen Aiken comes up, makes a couple AA starts. Etzel Correa, I think we just figured out that's how you pronounce his first name, Etzel Correa. He was pretty solid. He only struck out 1, walked 2 in his little spot start there, but held his own, only gave up a run or 2. But this is a little bit different. This is like we're announcing it through the media that he's being promoted. So yeah, hats off to him. And I'm sure as soon as Michael Ferret is able to go up to 75 pitches in a start, he'll be joining him shortly.
Yeah, I really think Correa goes back to High A to work out some more because he only had a couple starts there, and maybe it just I don't know when that last Blake Money start was, but it was recent. I feel like Double A just needed an arm, but Money's going to be the consistent guy that comes up and logs a lot of those innings now. I would almost be willing to say that over the last 2 years, he's probably been, if not the most consistent minor league arm, like top 3 most consistent arms down on the farm. Like it's the highs maybe never be too high, but there's never any like low lows with Blake Money. He just goes out, he throws a ton of strikes. He fills the strike zone up, and guys can't hit it. And I would love to see like the fastball metrics because I imagine they're pretty phenomenal. I bet the fastball really stands out because it's not like an overpowering. I think he can run it up to like 95, 96, but I think he's more probably what 91, 92 range maybe. But I bet it's like massive extension plus IVB. Like I bet all those pop. And he throws a lot of strikes. He gets guys to chase on the slider. And he gets up promoted to high A this year. And guys are making way less contact. He's getting more swing and miss this year. Like, I don't know, he's just very quietly gone about, done his job. And yeah, we'll see. It's kind of like, all right, you're in Double A now. It's a lot more real. Let's see what he can do. I'm intrigued. I'm excited to watch this guy pitch in Double A and see what he can do. See if he can continue to miss bats because we know walks already aren't an issue. He already lives in the zone with a lot of success. So how's that going to translate to Double A? And we'll see this week.
Yeah, he almost reminds me of like a taller version of Brandon Young or Zach Eflin, like just pounding the zone. Fastballs probably plays up better than the velocity would indicate. Yeah, let's get him to AAA so we can get some data on him.
Yeah, exactly. Because you think about the kind of pitchers that, or one type of pitcher that has had success in the Orioles farm system in the last few years, it has been the righties that don't have the overpowering fastball, but with good spin. Brandon Young comes to mind. Cameron Weston is settling and pitching really well at Norfolk right now. And we don't have as detailed of data on Money as we have on those guys, but I'd have to think that he falls into the same bucket. And with that, now we will go into our final segment of the night. Last call brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing, located at 1421 Ridgely Street. Checker Spot is not far from Oriole Park at Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre or post game drink. And when you're at the ballpark this year, be sure to check out the beer stand behind home plate to get the Bird is the Word, one of Checker Spot's signature beers. And for our last call segment on this episode, we will do our usual shout out of players outside the top 30 portion of our top 50 prospects list for something they've done recently, whether it's been a good game, a good week, or maybe just something interesting in their stat line that we want to point out. And I want to start with Nick, who has a couple of guys that fit into what has become an increasingly fun Delmarva Shorebirds team.
And a couple of guys with the same first name.
Yeah, this is the Luis segment. Going out to Delmarva, Luis Almeida, first and foremost, it just because, first of all, his MLB player page, I don't know if you guys have looked at it. It's a beautiful photo as the header of his page. The warehouse, packed stadium, lots of orange, very beautiful photo. But it's Heston Kjerstad up at the plate. So get it together, MLB. Anyway, I just wanted to shout out Almeida because he's fallen closer to the 40 range on our top 50 list over the last couple of years. Multiple shoulder injuries, ankle injuries. Like it has been an injury-riddled career so far for Almeida, who I think we all know the backstory. We all thought he was going to be this unique signing growing up in Jersey, but getting this huge signing bonus, a record signing bonus for an Orioles international prospect at the time. And unfortunately, it's been a slow start to his career, but he also gets promoted. Of course, Nate George gets all the highlight. That guy, talk about passion, talk about energy. This Delmarva team, to say they're fun to watch is an understatement. Now, they are must-watch TV, especially with George out there about to have an aneurysm with each base hit he has. But like Lorenzo, he's settling in. He's the youngest, I think, of the three. But Almeida, he's there. He went 6 for 18, so a 333 average with a double in the first week of play. And this, after last year, he finally got healthy. And the last month of last season in the FCL, he had 15 walks, OPS of 855, 4 total extra base hits after he hit just 3 all year up to that point. It was a phenomenal final month of the season last year, and that's translated into the FCL this year and then now to Delmarva. And I just think, like, watching him a little bit last week, he just looks like he belongs. And I think that's the big thing. We always talk about how Delmarva's typically been a favorite level of ours because this is where it's the hardest to evaluate these guys. And it's where the fun is, I think, for a lot of us in what we've done the last 5 years. You can tell almost instantly who's a dude and who's not. Some guys you might need a little bit longer, but you can just tell if you watch enough Delmarva and low A baseball, which I would not encourage you to watch a ton of low A baseball, but when you do, you see the difference. And I think Almeida belongs. And so I just wanted to shout him out because if you've forgotten about him, well, that's fair. I think a lot of people have, but yeah, don't write him off yet. Let's see what he can do. And if he finishes this year healthy, he could still find himself starting in high A next year. He doesn't turn 20. I think his birthday is like late April or something. So he could still be 19 years old, technically starting at Aberdeen next year. So still be right on track with his peers. And the other Luis, a guy who, hand up, didn't know a single thing about this guy until last week when I wrote the article up on Substack. But Luis Beltran, I was going through Delmar's roster, like, all right, this isn't a fun team to watch, but like not everyone is bad. There's a lot of good still on this roster. And I wrote that article up on Substack. I see Luis Beltran here. Last week, just 2 innings, 1 relief appearance, 1 hit, 1 run, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. Okay, fine. But he had 11 whiffs in 2 innings, which is pretty good. He's 6'4". He's 21 years old. He signed in 2023 international signing class. And Eric Longenhagen did have a note on Luis Beltran in the 2024 top prospect list and one of those extra blurbs at the bottom. And it just said Beltran is 6'4", 20-year-old righty who has been sitting 95 to 96 in the DSL with a mid-80s slider and basically no strikes. That's because his first 2 years in the Dominican Summer League, he had a walk rate of 25.2% in both years. This year, though, in the FCL, he had a 45% strikeout rate with a 10% walk rate, gets bumped up to Delmarva, and it's been just a couple of innings, but the guy's got a swinging strike rate of like 24. I'm reading from my article. This doesn't include the last outing. I don't even know if I have it up here. It's somewhere. It's like a over 20% swinging strike rate with a 42% call strike plus whiff percentage before this last outing. Small sample, but yeah, I'm now paying attention. I'm watching Luis Beltran when he makes an outing down in Delmarva.
Yeah, 40% strikeout rate in low A, 16% walk rate after, what is this, 5.2 innings, 10 strikeouts, 4 walks. Yeah. All I know is he's tall, throws hard, and he misses bats. I like it. But I will say that for Luis Almeida and Nate George and Joshua Lorenzo, so I can't remember who on the Discord said it, but it rings really true where, you know, you've had the Edwin Imparas, Luis Guevara's, Braylon Taveras, who've been in Delmarva and promising guys still. Raylan Ramos even a little bit. But they look like teenagers playing in low A ball. Nate George looks like John Rhodes. He's got John Rhodes like bulked up legs. Joshua Lorenzo is just a big presence, and Luis Almeida looks like he belongs too, even though he's very young still, just turned 19 not that long ago. So they just, if nothing else, and obviously Delmarva has gone from probably one of the lower on the watchability scale to start the year to now, like probably the top when Samuel Basallo is not due up. But yeah, they look like a different team physically. All right, I'll go into my guys here, and my hitter is going to be Anderson De Los Santos. Funny enough, who is a guy that I think John Muley joked, how's he still in this organization? Because it feels like he's been here forever and just hasn't really lived up to the potential. But he's a guy that has always been able to hit the ball hard when he makes contact. He's still only 21 years old, believe it or not. And it's like his, I don't know, third taste of high A ball, maybe, or at least second. But on the season, he's over league average. He has a 103 WRC plus. And in the last week or so, since June 7th, he's batting 261, 784 OPS, 133 WRC plus, identical 13% walk and strikeout rates, which to bring him up on the season and comparing him to last year, he had a 13.2% walk rate between low A and high A last year. He's at 13.3% this year, but his strikeout rate has dropped from 31.4% to 24.5%. He still has a similar ISO, BABIP, everything else, but less swing and miss. And when you hit the ball hard, that's going to equal more interesting results, good results. So yeah, if he can just continue, I think he just might be one of those guys. It's like a slow development, and then one day you're like, oh wow, he's like a 24-year-old first base prospect in AAA. That if you need someone that can hit, a la TT Bowens, perhaps Anderson De Los Santos could be that guy. So wanted to shout him out. And Yaki Rivera, again, 21 years old in AA, and just, I mean, we've talked about him for years now. I did not know he had this swing and miss strikeout stuff that he's brought this year. I don't know if he made some adjustments, because he never struck out this percentage of guys in the past, at least in my recollection. Like, his ERA is a little bit higher than it has been in the past, but I think the process is much better, because let's see. And since May 7th, he has a 3.21 ERA, 2.50 FIP, a 196 batting average against, and that's with the 346 BABIP against him. But he struck out 40.7% of batters and walked just under 12% of batters. That's 24 strikeouts in 14 innings. And man, he just looks electric out there. So that Bowie bullpen between him and Keegan Gillis, who I'll talk a little bit in the next episode about, if you got to lead late, bring those two guys in. It's probably over at that point.
Remember when we thought they cut Anderson De Los Santos?
Yes.
And the chaos that ensued? I'm pretty sure. Maybe like text somebody in the Orioles front office, be like, "What is this?" And
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't cut. What is going on?
Yeah, I texted Brad Seelick and was
That's
like,
right.
"Is this true?" And he's like, "Let me check. I don't think it should be." Yeah, it was the Pirates version of Anderson De Los Santos. So, yeah, don't give up on these guys.
Yeah, with Rivera, I just to piggyback off of what Bob said, I've always thought that the stuff was there for him to be even, and he's been, steady in his career so far. But I thought the stuff for him to be better was there, and we're really seeing it this year because his strikeout percentage has climbed by almost a full 12 points, 25.9% last year, 37.8% this year. So clearly getting more swing and miss stuff from his arsenal this year. I'm going to start with my hitter, and that's Jamon Newell, who put together a pretty nice weekend down in the DSL for DSL Orioles Orange, including a 2-for-5 performance in their matchup against Brewers Gold on Saturday. Newell is one of the players coming into the season we pointed out as someone who would be repeating the DSL this year, despite some positives from his stat line a year ago, some of that having to do with age and some of that because there were areas where he could clearly improve. And so far, when you look under the hood and look past the 219 batting average, you do see Newell making tremendous improvements. His strikeout percentage after fanning 30.3% of his plate appearances last year, he's got that down to 14.3% so far through 42 plate appearances. His walk rate has climbed from 19.2% up to 21.4%. And this is another really key thing, is that he's having much better results when he makes contact on the ball. He's cut his ground ball rate by over 24% so far this year, 44.1% down to an even 20%. The fly ball rate, meanwhile, has gone up from 40.9% to 64%. So Newell really putting it together, and I suspect that the baseline stats are really going to get better over the next few weeks. And then on the pitching side, I think we once again got to shout out Cohen Aiken, who had what might have been his best outing of the season over the weekend. On Friday at Jersey Shore, he carried a no-hitter into the 6th inning, ultimately went 5 1/3, was charged with 1 run on 1 hit with 6 strikeouts against 3 walks. It was a good rebound for Aiken because he had not been able to make it very far in his last 3 starts. In fact, didn't get through the 3rd inning in his last 3 starts. So to get deeper into the game and to do so efficiently and carry a no-hitter in as far as he did was a nice bounce back. And as we mentioned, this Bay Sox team is going to need a lot of help with arms. I kind of think that at some point we are going to see Aiken get that bump up again, especially if Bright, Bragg, and Wells are going to be out for a little while. And with the way he's pitching at Aberdeen, it's possible he may make the case to stay at Bowie for the duration of the season once he gets up there. And for that does it for this episode. We will be back later on this week to break down some players that we think should be promoted during this season. We'll have that for you later on in the week. In the meantime, you can check us out on our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. We're also over at Substack, OrielsOnTheVerge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to our Patreon community and sign up to become a member today at the $3, $5, or $10 levels. You'll have access to patron-only channels within our Discord, as well as bonus weekly coverage from Bob, Nick, and myself, and monthly updates to our top 50 prospects list. So for all of that and more, head over to Patreon now to sign up, become a member of our community. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spedden. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network. Welcome to Orioles on the Verge. This is Zach Spedden, joined as always by Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens. And on the heels of some recent promotions, including the jump of Blake Money from High A Aberdeen to Double A Chesapeake over the weekend, we're going to look at some players that have not been promoted yet, or at least have not moved up to the next level so far this year, and make the case for why they should be promoted at some point. Now, chances are you have heard us talk about these players in some form in the last few weeks because all of them are playing well at their current levels. But tonight, we're going to take the opportunity to dig a little bit deeper into these players and talk about their cases for moving up to the next level. And I want to start with Nick here because he's got an interesting range of prospects with his hitter, who's at High A, and then his pitcher, who's in the FCL, but making a very strong case for a look at a full season level before this season ends.
Yeah, my hitter, we'll start with this because it's a fun conversation. Some names instantly popped in my head when the topic was thrown out. And I'm like, I want to dig a little bit deeper. And maybe someone who, maybe not right now, they're ready to be promoted, but in the next couple of weeks, this could be a guy who makes some noise. And it's Aaron Estrada. I just think when this Aberdeen lineup was raking at the beginning of the year, and I wrote an article over on Substack saying, like, look, it's great that the college guys are hitting, but do not overlook Leandro Arias and Aaron Estrada, who are also off to blistering hot starts. Leandro Arias, I think, for the most part, has kind of followed that same trajectory as a lot of the rest of the lineup. But Estrada has just been very quietly played very well all season long, minus like a small stretch. He did just go 0 for 17, have an 0 for 17 slump this month. But since then, it's been 4 games since that slump. He has multiple hits in 3 of those 4 games. So overall, he's got a 118 WRC plus on the year. He's still just 20 years old. He doesn't turn 21 until January, so not until next season. He's 23 for 27 in stolen base attempts. Like, he's hitting for average. Walk and strikeout numbers are fine. He's stealing bases again, showcasing that speed. He has just 1 home run, though. And coming into the year, I said, I think what's going to separate him from his peers and put him in a tier above guys like Frederick Bencosme and Leandro Arias was that power. And it was weird because Arias was the guy who came into the system with high grades on the power and power potential. But I think it's kind of clear he's not going to develop that. And Freddie Bencosme, I've always kind of felt like his home run numbers were kind of misleading. And the power was not as much as the home run totals were showing. But then the guy who we thought had no power has all the power in Aaron Estrada, which is awesome. And I just think once that power starts clicking, I think you see him moved up to Double A. And it could come as early as July, honestly, because it doesn't necessarily have to mean home run total climbs. But I think back to like when Kobe Mayo was in High A. And remember, I think it was you, Bob, who talked to him he talked to you specifically about this, how like, yeah, under the hood, like we're all happy with what I'm doing. Like the org is happy, I'm happy. It's just not result for whatever reason, weather, the stadium, whatever. It's just not matching. The two things aren't matching. And look what happened. Mayo gets promoted to Double A, and of course he raked in. Now he's in the big leagues. I'm not saying Estrada and Mayo are the same, but I could see the same kind of deal where the org says, "Hey, you actually have 3 home runs, but you should have 8 because everything else behind the scenes is looking great right now. You made the changes we want to see. You're lifting the ball more. Here we go. We're going to promote you to Double A. It's time for your next challenge." And I go back to Steve Molesky. I know just did a great interview. He got to interview Estrada and wrote a piece, and there was a data point in there that it said, "Yep, this is it." And this is a quote. I'm going to quote from Steve's piece. A quote from Zach Cole, the hitting coach in Aberdeen. He said, quote, "He's got so many tools in the batter's box. I would argue he has the highest exit velo on the team. And over the last, he has the highest exit velo on the team. And over the last few years, he's probably in the top 5 of some guys that have run through here. That combined with his speed he has is big. The low-hanging fruit for him is continuing to build more mature approaches and the slug right now. He hits the ball really hard, more so right now at lower angles, blah, blah, blah. Estrada puts up very good exit velocity numbers, averaging 92 miles per hour for the season, and he recently drilled one at 112 miles per hour. So he's hitting the ball hard, and he does, if you look, he's got like a 51% ground ball rate this season. So yeah, I think if he starts hitting the ball in the air, starts barreling the ball more consistently, I think he's going to be 20 years old and taking over multiple positions in Bowie because he plays every single position. I think he's played, second, short. I think he plays left. He plays right. He's a utility guy. He seems to take pride in that. And I got the vibe from Steve's article that this is talk about that growth mindset, talk about being just a guy in that clubhouse, a good presence, a good teammate, and everything else behind the scenes you love. Estrada seems to fit that bill. So just start lifting it a little bit more. And I think you see Estrada kind of become one of the next bigger international prospects in the system, start to take off a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with exactly what you're saying with like under the hood. They have to be so pleasantly not surprised, but just happy with what he's doing. And it's just a matter of probably getting his at-bats. They're probably just waiting to reach a certain number, which is probably similar to the guy, my hitter, I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But Estrada, man, I think I was watching an early game on the broadcast, and they said he was like 3 for his last 32 or something coming into the series last week. And then he comes back out and just has a great week, like you said. So yeah, love the resilience. And I think it's just a matter of time. I think he's just got to probably, what is it, like 300 plate appearances they like to see before they move a guy up. So great call here. I love Estrada.
Yeah, this is a really good pick here. I've been really encouraged by Estrada's season. Because you could look at the home run total. He's only hit 1 home run this year. He only had 1 home run in Aberdeen last year in 26 games to end the season. But so far, extra base hits, 12 doubles, 5 triples to go with that home run. So he's up to 18 extra base hits total, which to me, knowing what a challenging environment Aberdeen is for home run hitters, that is really encouraging. And honestly, if I'm going to look at a player who can launch the ball, but maybe doesn't have the best exit velocities versus a guy that does hit the ball hard, but needs to work on the launch angle a little bit more, I'm going to take my chances with the person who needs to improve their launch angle because I think that that's going to be easier to fix as time goes on. And, truth be told, I don't think we're going to see the results from a home run standpoint until he's been settled in at Bowie for a while. Because, as you noted, Nick, he is hitting the ball on the ground a lot right now. And that's something you're going to have to continue to work on as he climbs the ladder. But he's made so much progress in the last year that I would not bet against him.
And let's also, here are some other players that we talked about in the recent years that hit the ball really hard, but on the ground too much. Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holliday, like really good players have had this issue. And again, he's incredibly young. So yeah, I would fully expect the launch angle to improve. Maybe not. I mean, at a certain point, your bat path is your bat path, but certainly think this is something that he will continue to improve as he gets a little bit older.
Yeah, just the 112. That's fun. And apparently he's added a ton of weight and muscle as well.
Yeah,
so,
he's like 5'11", 200, something like that.
Yeah.
Not the 5'8", 142 that's listed on Fangraphs.
Which how is MLB not making teams update these international guys? Because it's kind of a joke at this point. Anyway, I'm 6'8", but my pitcher, this one's easier. You guys have the upper arms. I wanted to go lower level just because so much injuries in the upper levels. It's who are we getting? Who are we going to promote at this point? Because you got to stay at your level because your level needs innings. But Esteban Luna, and I don't remember if we talked about him on outside the top 30 segment. We probably did after I watched him pitch last time. If I'm repeating this, so be it. Learn the name Esteban Luna. He's had wrote an article up on Substack. It is up there. Will this arm be the next breakout Orioles pitching prospect? He had a first outing in the DSL this year that was really good. 3 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, and he had 13 whiffs in that outing. His second outing wasn't the whiffs weren't there, but he did get up to 4 1/3 innings and just 1 hit allowed. He was also like a tick higher. So he was more 89-90 in the first outing. He was 90-91 more so in the second outing. He can get up to 93, and we know I referenced a Josh Norris from Baseball America. He's got a great footage last year of Luna, and he said he's a 17-year-old kid who was 89-92 with 20 inches of induced vertical break, a quote nasty changeup and field spin to breaking balls. So the mold is there, like the clay is there to mold. That is, he's repeating the Dominican Summer League again, but 2 really strong starts at. I don't know. I think Esteban Mejia is getting a lot of love nationally, specifically over at Baseball America the last couple of weeks. Of course, Keeler Morphe was the guy last year. Hopefully he's the guy again. But I think the next guy, as far as international arms to pay attention to, it's the other Esteban Luna.
Yeah, I do like this pick. He's fun to watch, and maybe it's just you got to assign more Estebans because these guys they're all pretty good, seemingly. So, yeah, I don't really have a lot to add, but I do like this pick, and it seems a little more rare that they bring a guy over from the DSL and promote him up to the FCL, but it has happened, and it has happened recently with Junior Abar getting the bump up from DSL to FCL, so not impossible. So, yeah, I like the pick.
Yeah, I like this pick as well. And, you know, it is a limited sample size right now. We only have 2 starts from Luna in the DSL. But if you want to look at where he had room for improvement at the end of last season, he's making strides. The walk rate last year, 12.9%. That's down to 9.4% so far this year. The strikeout rate, meanwhile, has climbed from 24% to 31.3%. So as long as he's able to sustain this over his next few outings, I think that given that he has been tested in the DSL before and has shown that he can make adjustments, that the Orioles should give him a look in the FCL before the season ends. I'll go ahead now, and I'm going to go with my pick. I'm going to start with my pitcher because it's the choice that doesn't jump out at you immediately, and it's really, for me, more of wanting to see what this guy has at the next level, and that's Peter Van Loon. Van Loon has gotten the bump to Norfolk on a couple of occasions this year, but it's really been in situations where the Tides have been out of arms and they need some length out of the bullpen. So on April 26th, he had a long relief outing against Memphis. He went back up on May 25th for a long relief outing against St. Paul. Otherwise, though, all of Van Loon's appearances so far this year have been down at AA, a level that he has shown already that he can master. Let's go back to last year. Van Loon missed the first few months of the season with an injury. He was coming off the kind of season at Bowie where when you looked at it at first glance, it wasn't very good. But then when you started to dig a little bit deeper, he had good strikeout numbers, some bad luck with fly balls. Last year, everything turned around for him, and he was great for the Bay Sox. 47 to third innings pitched, 2.66 ERA in 12 games, 11 of which were starts. Struck out 61 batters while walking 21. This year with the Bay Sox, he's thrown 26 innings, and the strikeouts have been at about the same clip they were last year. And the walk numbers have stayed consistent. So he's still missing bats. The walks might be a little bit high, but when Van Loon is on, he can pair that a pretty effective curveball with a fastball. He can move in any part of the strike zone and find success. Really, for me at this point, it's just wanting to see what Van Loon has at the next level, because I really don't think that he has anything left to prove at AA. Now, as we talked about a lot on our last show, Chesapeake, with the injuries that they have had this season, needs all the arms that they can get. But if the Orioles are set on using Van Loon out of the bullpen this year, which they seem to be, considering that he's only made one start, then I think that they might as well give him the bump up to AAA. He's 26, see what he has, and if he can be successful there, great. If not, then you can reevaluate. But this is a guy that I just don't think has anything left to show you at AA.
You have to be a Van lunatic to think that he should still be in AA. Yeah, is that who we're talking about?
Yeah, and I feel the exact same way. It's like, do I think like something's ever going to click and he's going to be like, oh, he's a Norfolk starter, and should we put him on the 40 man? Like, I just want to see him in AAA. The exact same thing, like you said, because this is a guy who also, when he went to the Arizona Fall League, I remember him getting some national love. And I think like MLB Pipeline being like, oh, this stuff's actually pretty good. And it's fine. He got 4 innings in AAA this year and small sample, but he's got three of his 4 offerings between a 100 and 103 stuff plus, well above average extension. Let's put him in the Norfolk's bullpen and let's just see what happens there. See if he can click. Let him adjust to that pro ball. The strike zone, all of that, and see what he can do over the second half of the season up there in Norfolk. Because he's still an interesting guy, and I know he's got a little small. It's a small but minor like subsection of fan base. Guys who follow the minor leagues like really love this guy for good reason. He's been a pretty solid pitcher throughout his minor league career so far. And again, another one of these later round, smaller school arms that the Orioles found and built up. And let's see what you got.
Yeah, and those stuff plus numbers, they just match the eye test. If you're watching him pitch, it's like, yeah, nothing's going to blow you away, but he's got 3 to 4 good pitches that he can just mix and match and dot here and there. So yeah, I agree. He should be up. Houston Roth is up seemingly permanently into AAA, and he's had a modicum of success so far. And I think he's got a little bit worse stuff plus numbers, but he's making it work with his mix. So yeah, I'll never understand to have these guys that are like 30 years old and barely hanging on with like 70 RAs in AAA, like the guy that used to be in Houston that I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But yeah, I give us our prospects up in AAA. That's what we want to see. But yeah, that's all I got. Did you already talk about your hitters, Zach?
No, so I'm going to dive right into my hitter now, and that's Dylan Beavers. It goes without saying, because we have said it repeatedly on this show, that Beavers is probably having the best season of his career right now at Norfolk. We spent a lot of our last episode talking about Samuel Basallo and the production that he's had. So Basallo might be the hitter that stands out the most in Norfolk right now, but Beavers has been one of the steadier presences for the Tides this season. After a really slow start to the year, he dug himself out of the hole in a big way. And as of this recording, 304 batting average, a 132 WRC plus, the lowest strikeout rate of his career over a full season at 19.3% to go as a 13.6% walk rate. And I pull up his player card over at prospectsavant.com, and there's a lot of red on it, which is good to see. He's in the 64th percentile in strikeout percentage, 80th percentile in walk percentage, zone contact rate 74%, swinging strike rate 86%. He's making consistent contact in the zone. He's not chasing very much, and that's a formula that you really got to like to see, because that's something we've talked about. The Orioles preach with players, but Heston Kjerstad, we're going to talk about a little bit later on, that's not the kind of hitter Heston Kjerstad is. He hasn't been that hitter at AAA. He hasn't been that hitter in the major leagues, and he has struggled. And when we did a compare and contrast recently on Beavers and Kjerstad, Nick, I think you made a great point, which is that Kjerstad has much louder contact when he gets a hold of the ball, but Beavers is probably going to be the guy that makes contact more consistently. So I especially feel like, too, that the Orioles outfield is going to go into this offseason with a lot of question marks. Tyler O'Neill has been banged up this year. Can you count on him to be an everyday outfielder going forward? Cedric Mullins is going to be a free agent, if he's even still with the Orioles at the end of this season. Colton Cowser right now looks like he might be the only certainty in the outfield, especially with Ramon Laureano also heading to free agency. So if and when the opportunity comes up, I think that the Orioles should promote Beavers, give him the opportunity to play. Don't sit him against lefties consistently, because from what we've seen this year, he can actually hit lefties a little bit, and just at least see what you have. At least go into the offseason knowing, is Dylan Beavers an option for you? And if he's an option, is it as an everyday player? Is it as a platoon bat? Is he just a solid fourth or fifth outfielder to have there? Whatever it is, I think you want to find that out, because it's going to affect a lot of plans for the offseason, because there's going to be some holes in this outfield. And unless you can fill one or two of them internally, you're going to be spending a lot of trade capital and money trying to plug in those holes.
Yeah, I like what Beavers has done. We've talked about this a lot, but if not even just that first week, but if you look past the first week or first 2.5 weeks or so, like on the season, his strikeout rate's 19.3%, which is really good. And his walk rate is 13.6% over 228 plate appearances. Well, if you just eliminate like 30 plate appearances or so over his last 45 games / 192 plate appearances, he has an identical 14.1% walk rate and strikeout rate. So he's not swinging and missing. He's taking his walks. He's very selective. And in that time span, since April 8th, he's batting .331 with a .924 OPS, 169 ISO. He's going to give you doubles. He's going to give eight of them, to be precise, 2 triples, 5 home runs, 17 stolen bases in 20 attempts, 152 WRC plus. He's just really come onto his own, and he's been super consistent since that first week or so. And the way the Heston curse had kind of failed out of the Matrix this year, and obviously he's back in AAA now, and he's clearly working on some swing adjustments because he definitely does not look like Heston Kurtz standing up at the batter's box at this current moment in time, and he could still turn things around. But in the meantime, I mean, you got Dylan Carlson, who's been performing really well, and he's under control next year too. But especially if you trade Cedric Mullins at some point this season, just give Colton Cowser that center field job. I would love to see Dylan Beavers come up and just get an extended run in a corner outfield spot to see what you got.
Yeah, and I could see Beavers coming up soon. I would think, because like Beavers is definitely a guy like you're not going to play the Rookie of the Year games with. Like, as much as I love Dylan Beavers, is he going to be in contention for Rookie of the Year compared to Samuel Basallo? I don't really think there's a competition there. But even just a lot of things he's done very well this year, he's getting even better. I pulled up his card now, and then his card in the Substack article I wrote. And since then, he ran into a wall, which this is just a spatial awareness thing among all Orioles players, apparently, finding where the wall is. But like since then, this has been a couple of weeks. Like the max EV and 90th percentile is still the same, but his average exit velo is up 2 ticks to 88 miles per hour. His hard hit percentage is up from 40% to 44%. The strikeout rate is even better, as you guys have touched on here. The walk rate is still maintaining about the same. End zone contact rate, it's up a tick. Like the whiff rate are down almost 2 ticks. Like the chase is down almost a full tick, down to 21%. Like everything he was doing the best at this year, he's even better in the last month of the season. And like, it's bring him up. Cause yeah, especially after the deadline, if moves are made and certain guys go, like I see no reason why Beavers, if he's going to continue to play like this, there's no reason he should still be in AAA. Just bring him up. He's Rule 5 eligible. So you're either going to have to trade him or add him to the 40-man anyway. Why not just get him on the 40-man, get him up in the major leagues, get him some at-bats now, especially if you're going to move on from some of these guys, and see what he's got in the big leagues.
You bring Kyle Tucker light up and then bring in Kyle Tucker heavy to put him under his wing in the offseason.
I truly don't understand though, like how this guy hits a baseball. This swing, I love it. It's just, it weirds me out every time. And it feels like the harder he hits the ball, and those home run swings are the worst. They're like the funkiest. I don't want to say worse, like they're bad. They're just funky. And I love it. And it's working so well for him right now. It's awesome to see.
It's like if Hudson Haskin would have worked out. I guess I'll go to my guys now. I will start with my pitcher because this was like the easy pick of the litter here. Keegan Gillies, for me, is the guy that just absolutely needs to be promoted. He's coming up on 100 innings pitched at the AA level now, from 24 innings in 2023, 47 and a third last year, and 27 and 2/3 so far this year. He's got a 1.3 ERA on the season over those 27 and 2/3 innings, which is a 2.42 FIP, 2.52 xFIP, 31 strikes to 4 walks, a ridiculous 4% walk rate. 4% walk rate for a 6'8", 255-pound right-handed pitcher that's insane. 31% strikeout rate, incredibly good. I don't know what we're doing here. The guy is 27 years old, and that's not any offense to him that he's 27 in Double A. That's like, what are we doing here? Don't even promote him to Triple A. Promote him to the freaking majors right now. Bullpen's pretty good in Baltimore, but yeah, this guy is like a potential mainstay in your bullpen for the next 6-7 years if he's going to pitch the way he has. I mean, he had a down year last year, but basically ever since 2023, and he showed blips of it. I think injury had a lot to do with his failures last year, but I mean, he is so lights out this year. It's a wipeout splitter. It's some mid to high 90s fastball. It's everything you want in a high leverage reliever. And he's 27 years old again. Like, let's do this thing, right?
And you would even think like, all right, maybe there's something we're missing here. And the Orioles just be like, we like him, of course, but like we don't see a future of him here. Put him in AAA and see what he can do there. And if anything, trade him. Like, do something with him. Either get him up to AAA so other MLB organizations feel a little bit better about what he can do against better competition. And they're like, hey, we actually like this guy. Let's make a deal. And it's not going to be a major deal, but still, like, something that's fine. Or just, yeah, this is the most mind-boggling one. And it's frustrating even more because you see Alex Pham sit and sit and sit. I don't know, he's probably built a home. Kids are moving in, like kids are going to school. His kids are going to be like have jobs over there in Bowie, Maryland at this point because he's never going to leave. And look what happened. He gets hurt. Like Gillis is 27 years old. There was never any dream of him being a starter. You know exactly what his role is going to be. Just shove him up the system, let him sink or swim, and take advantage of this because these guys, these relievers can fall apart tomorrow. You have no idea. Most volatile position in sports. Take advantage of it. And like, why is he? I'm preaching to the choir. I know that, but like, why is he still just wasting his time in some random AA city when he should be much closer to the big leagues?
And like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad these guys have gotten the shot too. But Houston Roth is in AAA.
Yeah.
Dylan Hyde got his shot in AAA for a little while. Carlos Tavera obviously was in AAA before he disappeared again on the injured list. Like, Peter Van Loon has gotten a taste of AAA this season, but not Keegan Gillies, who is 27 and just like dominating AA hitters. Like, they have no chance against him.
Yeah, I really don't get why he's there. And in fact, he's kind of the reason that I suggested this segment because I felt like we needed to talk it through because I can't understand why he's still at Chesapeake. Honestly, I thought that there was a case to promote him to Norfolk at the start of this year. Because the numbers at Chesapeake last year, the numbers in AA last year, were largely inflated by a bad July. And when you looked at the underlying pitch metrics, it felt like everything was clicking for him. So put him up in AAA, see what you have, because the other thing, too, is he's Rule 5 eligible. So I think sooner rather than later, you'd like to know, is this a guy that we should protect? Do we not have to worry about him at all? Or kind of like what they did with Trey Mago last year, can you get some good enough innings out of him at AAA to get something for him in a trade, even if it is a bench bat or a bullpen arm at the major league level? Instead, they've left him down in AA. And the only thing that I think you really could have said about Gillis' season last year was the walks were high. And you want to see the walks come down before you promote him. Okay, I wouldn't balk at that too much, but the walks are basically non-existent this year. The strikeout rate hasn't really come down in the process. We're now over 2 months into the year. Why is this guy not in AAA yet?
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. And this is not a guy I want to trade. This is a guy I want to be in this bullpen over the next X amount of years, especially when he has options, he'll be cheap. I mean, I don't care how much they pay these guys. I hope they get like $100 million. But the fact is he's going to be a cheap, cost-controlled relief arm with high upside, with options. Like, I don't know. I just don't know.
I mean, injuries were a major problem early on in his career, but like you said, he's up to almost 100 innings in AA. This is his third year in AA. There's no excuse. He's running a swinging strike rate of 20%. Guys they're not making contact at all against him. It's the numbers are just video game numbers. This is create a player down here in AA, and I truly don't get it. Yeah, this is the most mind-boggling one, and it's even more. I don't know. He could get to AAA and not go well at all, and he could never pitch in the major leagues. Like, I don't care. I want him to get a shot. It's like I don't know. It's the most frustrating of them all.
If you can protect Cade Stroud from the 40 man and from the Rule 5 draft, then you can definitely and should definitely protect Keegan Gillies. Not just because he was a guest on the show either. I guess I'll go into my hitter now, which is a little more reasonable that he hasn't been promoted yet. But to me, like, he's already 20 years old. He's getting old. He's getting over the hill. Now, Yasmil Buche, catcher, who we've talked about, we did not have much respect for, at least just because we didn't know, coming into the season in Delmarva, and he's done nothing but hit, walk, and hit. He's batting .280 with an .854 OPS, 152 WRC plus, 17.7% walk rate, 22.4% strikeout rate, 156 ISO. He's got 10 doubles, 2 triples, 5 home runs. Just maybe they're just waiting to get that magic 300 plate appearance number before they bump him up. Because, I mean, Anutis Mordon's hitting like 175 in Aberdeen. I feel like I'd rather see Buche, who can hit the ball incredibly hard, over 110. I forget the exact number that we might have heard in the past, but a guy that's just hitting the ball hard, hitting the ball often. He's not swinging and missing much. He's walking a ton. I want to see him challenged and get to that next level. I know Aberdeen could certainly use the firepower on offense.
And just the weirdest case, because I think we talked about this last time we talked about him. He is going to be Rule 5 eligible as well. And he's not even 21 years old yet, but here he is in A-ball and already Rule 5 eligible. So again, reiterate that point I think we made before as well. Something's got to change with these Rule 5 rules, at least with the international guys. But that's a tricky one, and that's another one where, yeah, I mean, you can delay it a little. You can, protect him from the minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft at least. Nobody's going to take him in the major league phase. You can protect him in the minor league phase pretty easily. But next year, like, you're going to have to make this decision again. You can only hide him for so long. Yeah, let's start moving up the system a little bit. See what you got.
I would really love to know what the organization thinks about Busse on defense, because so far this year, he's got almost an even split between catcher and first base. 24 games behind the plate compared to 21 at first. And as I pointed out on one of our episodes recently, throughout his career, he's always had a good catching prospect alongside him, at whatever level he's played at. And that was the case at the beginning of this year, when Miguel Rodriguez was healthy. It seemed like Rodriguez was going to be the primary guy for the Shorebirds, but then he got hurt early in the year, and that's since become Busse. The reason I bring the point up about the defense, though, is that you look at how the catchers are stacked in the minor leagues right now. You've got Basallo in Norfolk, Willems at Chesapeake, and then Ethan Anderson, who I think that they really want to give innings to behind the plate at Aberdeen. And that could be the one thing that keeps Busse down in Delmarva a little bit longer, is if they just don't think the innings are there for him behind the plate. If, though, they are willing to play him at first base a lot, I agree with you, Bob, that would be a much-needed source of power for that lineup, because right now in Udis, Mordon and Anderson de los Santos are getting most of the time at first base, and neither of those guys is putting up a great season offensively. So I would really be curious to see what Busse can do. And the other thing, too, is that we have seen where the Orioles can take guys who are a little bit young for the level. When they get to high A initially, they struggle and then turn them around. Creed Willems is a perfect example of that. Willems really struggled when he first went up to Aberdeen, but mastered the level the second time around. I think he's a better prospect now because of that experience. So if that's the worst case scenario that would happen with Busse this year, I think they need to take a long, hard look at it, unless the innings behind the plate are the priority.
Yeah, and that very well could be, but I would imagine if you could switch places Mordon with Buche, like, you can still I would think you could still find him innings behind the plate, but I mean, I'm sure they know what they're doing as far as the development plan for Buche. I just would like to see him challenged because also want to make room at Delmarva for some guys to come up from the FCL as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have a feeling that we're going to have a good group of players making that jump from the FCL to Delmarva at some point this season. And with that, more than we've already had. And with that, now we'll head into our final segment. Last Call, brought to you by Checker Spot Brewing. Located at 1421 Ridgely Street, Checker Spot is not far from Camden Yards, making it the perfect place for a pre or post game drink. And when you're at the ballpark this year, be sure to check out the beer stand behind home plate for one of Checker Spot's signature beers, The Bird is the Word. And for our final segment tonight, I'm going to bring up this question on the heels of Heston Kjerstad being optioned down to AAA, which happened last week after we recorded our episodes. After he struggled during his first truly extended run in the majors, have your feelings on Heston Kjerstad changed? Do you think he could still be a long-term contributor to the Orioles, or does that possibility now seem remote? Nick, I will start with you on this one.
I don't want to beat a man when he's down. Literally, he's down in AAA now. I think he's hanging on by a thread. Like, it's just the bat has to shine because the defensive experience is an experience that no one should be subjected to. We know you can't put him at first base to help that situation either. But the bat, call him Silent J, the bat has been completely silent this year. It's the average and max EVs are down a couple of ticks. The hard hit percentage is down. The walk rate has evaporated. The chase rate was approaching like 40% before they sent him down. Bat speed's down year over year. This is 2 years in a row now. The bat speed's tricked down. I'm cherry picking bad numbers, but like all the numbers are bad. And like, I don't know. Outside of like, look at what he did in the minors, I don't see like what is there to point to specifically that shows like hope. And I don't like we did this with Grayson and Kowser and Mayo and Holiday. It was very easy to be like A, B, and C. Look at A, B, and C. They're going to figure this out. This is why. Give them time. Trust the process. Yada yada. With Kjerstad, it's like, what's point A? Like, I truly don't know. And like, I'm genuinely curious if there's anything like you guys are seeing to remain hopeful because like I'm not. And maybe we see something in the next few weeks. Back down in Norfolk, like he had that break between being sent down and then appearing in that first game. And I don't know if it was a mental reset reasons or it was because they identified a change and he was working with instructors behind the scenes, incorporating that before they get him into game action. Who knows? We'll see if there's changes this week when he gets like a full week of play. But this was his chance. Like the excuses I feel like are kind of run out. Like, yeah, you had the myocarditis, you had the hamstring, you had the concussion last year. Like you can't help all those things, but like it's the excuses I feel like are kind of dry. And it's like he's not performing. He didn't take advantage of his opportunity this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, I will say I do think he's a better hitter than he showed this year. At least I hope so, because he's shown that is in the past. He just comes up. He was coming up, and it just seemed like he was just hacking at everything. Didn't matter where it was, what pitch it was. Like no plan of attack at the plate. And yeah, like you said, the bat speed down. Like just what happened to the Barrel King? Like he's got that perfect bat path, and he just not getting to it, and it was kind of just spiraling. And I was kind of calling for a mental reset, send him down just to get his confidence back much earlier. Because yeah, 3.6% walk rate, that's insanely low. And the strikeout rate was improving since he made his first major league appearance in 2023, went from 30% to 29 and then up 27%. But to sacrifice what kind of damage that you're doing at the plate. And honestly, even if he can become the hitter that we always thought he could be, like a 250, 20 home run type of guy, not a cleanup hitter or anything, but just like a solid Barrel King, as just doing some damage when he makes contact. The defense is just not major league quality. And it's sad to say he's 26 years old And a lot of that is out of his control because of the myocarditis and the lost years there. But he's getting older. I don't think his defense is going to drastically improve, and he's just not a major league outfielder. He proved in the minors he couldn't play first base. So he's a glorified DH that can't hit at this moment in time. And I hate to sound harsh, but that's just what it is. And I do think he can be a better hitter than that, and maybe, can still carve out a role with this team. But honestly, I'm just not sure. And I was of the opinion that he should have been the guy you were centering an offseason trade for a pitcher, top of the rotation arm or middle of the rotation arm. And obviously I didn't see this season coming. I still was high on him at that point, but clearly in hindsight, that would have been selling high on him. So, rooting for him, hope he can bounce back and at least be the hitter that we thought he could be, if not the defensive capabilities that we would hope for a corner outfielder.
Yeah, and to be clear, I never had high expectations for Kjerstad's defense. I don't think either of you did either. What I had hoped was that it could kind of get to the point that the Orioles were with Anthony Santander, where it's like, are the metrics particularly good? No. But you pair him with a good center fielder in a ballpark with a short right field, and it'll be fine. And you'll get enough production out of the bat to offset that. But not only did the defense not even look like, typical Santander, it wasn't even up to that level. The bat was just nowhere to be found. And we know what the formula is with Kjerstad. He's not necessarily a high exit velocity guy. He chases after a lot of pitches, but he consistently barrels the baseball. And some of the numbers that Nick pointed to are alarming. The fact that the bat speed has dropped, his barrel percentage this year was really bad. And you factor that in with the fact that the chase rate was really bad. The whiff percentage was bad. He was not walking at all, striking out at a clip of almost 27% and not hitting for power to go with that. And it's not a good formula. I do think the one thing that helps him, though, is that if the Orioles continue to struggle, I feel like they have to give Kjerstad at least one more shot, because what else are you going to do? If they trade Ryan O'Hearn and or Cedric Mullins at the deadline, Kjerstad's probably the guy that's going to come up, and he'll have 2 months to show what he can do, even if it's as a DH left-handed platoon option, because you don't want him in the outfield. At least that's something. But I do feel like he is kind of hanging on by a thread a little bit. I will tackle on this question. Does what happened with Kyle Stowers give you guys any pause of maybe giving up on Kjerstad too early, or do you think this is a different case than Stowers?
Hasn't Kyle Stowers turned back into a pumpkin? Isn't he rough again? Shocker, Kyle Stowers is who we said he was for the last 2 years. He had a hot stretch. Congratulations, that's great to see. But Kyle Stowers is Kyle Stowers again. I'm just not too concerned about that. Just because, like I said, it's hard to find something offensively to point to other than yes, we know what he did in the minors, but he hasn't really been able to do that in the major leagues this year. And he had full runway, and he just the wheels didn't even get off the ground. He just veered right into the fence. I just don't know about here with Kjerstad. It's frustrating too, but at the same time, the way I look at it, it's yeah, this is frustrating, and this sucks that we have to have this conversation about Kjerstad. And could he not pan out and just fizzle out and remain in the organization and fizzle away into nothing? Probably. Does he get traded and find a new home and find success? If that's the case, then great for him. He deserves that. I wish him all the best. I wish all these guys the best when they leave the organization. Unless you go to New York or Boston, then go flame out for all I care. But I wish all the best of these guys. But at the same time, Colton Cowser stepped up. Colton Cowser's a dude. Stop running the walls, but he's a dude. Jackson Holliday's going to be an all-star potentially this year after last year. You're going to miss. Maybe this is just a miss. That's just all it is, I think.
Yeah, and on the Kyle Stowers front, since May 24th, his last 63 plate appearances, he has a 3 WRC plus with a 153 batting average, 017 ISO. Yeah, he came right back down to earth, 32% strikeout rate, 6% walk rate. So, yeah, I think Kyle Stowers is who we thought he was, which is still, I I like Kyle Stowers. I think he'll have his stretches where he is an above average player, but I'm just not going to be worried about what these guys are going to do after, because they're going to do that, and I'm rooting for them anyway. So I want what's best for the Orioles, and I'm not sure if Heston Kjerstad's what's best for the Orioles anymore. And I hate to say that.
And for that does it for us this week. We will be back next week to break down all the latest news in Birdland. In the meantime, you can check us out on our many social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Threads, X, Blue Sky, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch. We're also over at Substack, Orioles on the Verge.substack.com. And while you're browsing around the internet, be sure to head over to our Patreon community and sign up to become a member at the $3, $5, or $10 levels and have access to bonus weekly coverage from Bob, Nick, and myself, patron exclusive channels in our Discord, monthly updates to our top 50 prospects list, and more. So head over to patreon.com today to check that out. For Bob Phelan and Nick Stevens, this is Zach Spen. You've been listening to Orioles on the Verge, part of the Believe Podcast Network.